Hello there, it's Sundip, and in this short video I'm going to go over a very common position in the Rue Lopez played at the amateur level, which has an appalling win rate for black. So on the screen, this position has been reached almost 20,000 times in the Lichess database, and if you play the Rue Lopez with the white pieces, you will play this position over and over again. And black is winning only 35% of games in this position, white has a 61% win rate. And this is despite the fact that Stockfish thinks that the evaluation is plus 0.3, so roughly equal game. But the problem for black is that black is often down to only moves. And it just goes to show that the Rue Lopez is a great opening to play, even if you're a beginner intermediate. People don't want to do it because they don't want to learn tons of theory, tons of lines, but that's exactly why you should do it. Because your opponent, especially at the lower levels, is going to come unprepared. They're going to do random stuff, and you can put them under a lot of pressure, and then it's just down to your chess to try and convert that position. So before we go into the details of this and why it's so difficult for black to hold this position, let's take it from the top. So we have e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, the Rue Lopez, one of the most common openings in chess. And then the most common response will be a6 with Morphy defense. Grandmasters play this, played at the top level, bishop a4. And now if I toggle here to the Masters database, 9 in 10 title players are going to play the move knight f6. And that develops a piece that challenges for the center. What they don't tend to do is play an immediate b5. There's no rush to play b5 because after knight f6, some people are worried about remove the defender tactics, but that doesn't work. So after bishop takes c6, d takes c6, knight takes e5, white has not pinched a pawn because black has queen d4. The knight is hanging, knight f3, queen takes e4, check, queen e2, queen takes queen, king takes queen. Black got its pawn back, black is slightly better according to Stockfish. So top players generally will not go for an immediate b5. They'll play knight f6. However, if we toggle to the Lichess database, some 1 in 5 players are going to play this move b5. It's not losing, it's completely playable. It can lead to certain other lines like the Norwegian defense, which I'll show you. But there is a kind of rush to play b5. If you go into the filters and you filter out some of the better players, and let's say we leave in 1600s, you'll see that the number of people playing b5 actually increases from about 1 in 5 to about 1 in 3. So here it's telling me 35% of players will play b5. So this b5, immediate b5 push is something you'll face over and over again if you're a beginner intermediate like me. So they play b5, now you go bishop b3. And in this position, if a top player plays this position, they're going to play most probably knight a5. And this is known as the Norwegian defense. It has a ton of theory. You can go ahead and study that online somewhere. However, in the Lichess database, what players do is they play this move knight f6. Not losing. Stockfish can hold the position, but it's going to be tough. Because what you can do, and you can already see here, this position has been reached 200,000 times in the Lichess database. White's winning 55% of games, black wins only 41%. So already you sense trouble for players with the black pieces. The key thing to do in this position is to go for an immediate d4. Just challenge for the center. Castling is a move, but just play d4. And after d4, black is pretty much down to only moves. So you can see here in the Lichess database, people play e takes d4, and that will lead to trouble. I'll show you how. They'll play knight takes d4, that will lead to trouble. Knight takes e4 is playable. The best way to go is d6. But in all cases, you can see that white is doing well in this opening. And so what happens if they play something like knight takes d4? I'm going to go through all these. So knight takes d4. This is a very dangerous move by black. Because after knight takes d4, how Stockfish wants you to get the material back is to play the move c5 and then knight a5 and then c4. The bishop is trapped, you get your piece back, and the game goes on. That's how Stockfish wants you to do it. If after knight takes d4, you do what everyone does in the Lichess database, which is to play this move e takes d4. Pretty much everyone does that. Nobody plays this move c5. Oh, less than 1% do that. E takes d4, then you've lost. Because now the winning move is e5, then this knight can't really move. Because if you play some move like knight g8, then you have queen f3, this threatens mate, and the rook is hanging on a8. And you've got to stop mate, queen e7, let's say, queen takes a8, and then you have this annoying check, queen takes e5 check. The key thing to do in this position is play king d1 and threaten rook e1, trapping the queen, and I believe in this position, Stockfish wants you to play king d8. Okay, so both kings are in the center, queens are on the board. The game is not trivial, you have to convert it, but it is +6 according to the engine. So a completely winning position, and it's down to your chess to convert it. So this knight takes d4 idea is very dangerous because pretty much no one is going to find this move c5 after knight takes d4. Another bad idea is this move e takes d4. And so the key thing to do here is to just go ahead and castle. And this is something that we've all got to learn as beginners, intermediates, is we don't need to rush to take back the material. What top players do is they gain initiative, they put pressure on their opponents, and they collect the material later in many cases. So here, a very strong move is just castling. And now, many moves for black lead to trouble. So, the moves that immediately come to mind is a move like bishop c5. So you can see the second most popular move here in the database is bishop c5. Trying to protect the pawn advantage, but you can't. You're losing now because of e5. And where is this knight going to go? You play knight g8. And now you have knight g5, and there is a double attack on this f7 pawn. You say, okay, I'll play knight h6, but now you play queen h5. And now what you're going to do? You can't play g6 because I take the knight. You could castle, but then you're castling into it. If you give Stockfish, if you switch on Stockfish, it's about +3. Okay, so you're just castling into problems. You play a move like queen e7, then you have knight e4, and that puts a lot of pressure on the queen because it's tied down to the defense of this bishop. And now you can see some people in the database, they play this move knight takes e5. But now the winning move is bishop g5. The queen has to stay defending this bishop, so has to play this move queen f8, but now you have a remove the defender tactic. Bishop takes h6, and if you take here, then you're going to take this knight. Completely winning for players with the white pieces. So not a great idea for you to play knight g8. You could try knight g4. But here, the idea will be to play bishop d5. And the problem here is that there is a pin. And what players need to be playing is rook b8 to get out of this pin. But you can see here in the database, people just go ahead and castle. And now you're in a lot of trouble. Because after h3, where's this knight going to go? If you go here, then we're just going to take. And we're going to bust open that black king. And that's a position that every player with the white pieces will want. If you do this, it's a blunder. Because after knight takes e5, knight takes e5, knight takes e5, you play bishop takes a8. So you're +3 in material at the moment. Technically, you can get this bishop. You can trap this bishop, so you play c6. With ideas of d5, bishop d7, and capturing the bishop. So you have to return this material. But the way you return it is by first taking the pawn. And so when all is said and done, white will be +1. And if you turn on Stockfish, white is completely winning. I believe it's +2, +3, something like that. It's down to your chess. So bishop c5 is a pretty bad idea. And for similar reason, bishop e7 is not a great idea either. You just go with e5. And now, something like you have to be careful now after knight g4, you have similar ideas to before, where you play bishop d5 and h3 and rook e1, protecting your pawn. And the game goes on. If you play this other move, d6, you say, okay, the threat seems to be e5. So I'll play this move d6. Okay, well the problem now is that you can go ahead and play knight g5, double attacking this f7 pawn. And how are you going to protect that? And so what Stockfish wants you to do, which no human player is going to do, I don't even think elite players will do this. Stockfish just wants you to play bishop g4, and after bishop takes f7 and king d7 and f3. Okay, no human's going to do that. What humans are going to do is they're going to play this move knight e5 to protect this f7 pawn. Or you're going to play f4. Then black's going to say, no, everything's fine, I'll just play knight c4. But now you're going to play e5. And you cannot take. Because if you take, you play d takes e5, then you have bishop takes c4, b takes c4, and now you have f takes e5, and this knight cannot move. Because if this knight moves, there is a double attack on this f7 pawn, and you're going to fork the queen and rook, and white is completely winning. So you say, okay, I won't take that pawn, I'll just move the knight. Okay, In which case we have queen takes d4. This knight is hanging, bishop b7. And now comes this very annoying move e6. And in this position, f takes e6, rook e1. And okay, the black king is stuck in the center. It's not trivial, but this is just a very annoying position for players with the black pieces. Generally, when players are in positions like this, they drop tactics, and you have good chances of winning the game. The engine definitely favors white. So, not a good idea to play. Not a good idea to play d6. So what else do people do? So we've covered d6, we've covered bishop c5, we've covered bishop e7. Knight takes e4 seems playable, but you have to return the material. So after knight takes e4, black is up 2 pawns, but white is still winning according to Stockfish, but +1 on the engine. Because black will have to return those pawns, and I'll show you how. Because now after the obvious rook e1, black will play d5, protecting the knight. And there's no time to move this knight and play f3 because black can remove the pin. So instead, we go ahead with this move knight c3. It's a gangster move, and you can't take. Because if you take, then you have bishop takes d5, this knight is hanging, and white is going to get its piece back. So you play bishop b7, and now you take bishop takes e4, and you have to be very careful because there's a discovered check here. So one blunder that no doubt players are going to make if you get into this position is queen takes queen. Huge blunder. Because now you have bishop takes c6 check, king d8, rook takes d1 check, king c8, and now many moves are winning, but you just go ahead and take the material. White is up material, white is just completely winning. So knight takes e4 is playable, but again, black is down to only moves. After rook e1, d5, the way to continue knight c3 for black is to play this move bishop e6, and now this knight is hanging because we don't have this bishop takes d5. So you play this move knight takes e4, d takes e4, rook takes e4, you got one of your 2 pawns back. And you're going to get the other pawn back because there is a double attack on this bishop. It's pinned. And there is a triple attack on this pawn. And so I think the engine move is bishop e7 and whatever, knight takes d4, and the game goes on. Material is equal, but white is slightly better. So overall, a pretty bad position when you play this move e takes d4. A playable line seems to be knight takes e4, and now you can just have d takes e5, and let's say knight c5, and okay, the game goes on. Okay, so the best thing for black to do in this position is after d4 just play d6, and now there's pretty much no threat. And so white has to play some move like c3, and you have bishop e7 and castles and whatever, h3 and bishop e7, the game goes on. Kind of a typical looking Ruy Lopez position. But that's difficult to find. You can see here in the database that after this immediate d4 reaching this position, people are playing e takes d4, knight takes d4, knight takes e4. d6 is down in the list here. 14% of players are finding that move, which is pretty much the safest move. But curiously, and you might want to look into it, still white is winning a lot of games with 60%. And this is something that you're going to face over and over again, because after you get to bishop b5, a6, bishop a4, yeah, top players will play knight f6, but you're going to face an immediate b5, bishop b3, and they're going to play knight f6, in which case you have this golden opportunity to play d4, and black is going to be down to only moves in many variations. I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you have any comments on it, do leave them below. Thank you very much for your time.